Assalamu alaikum and good morning to you all. Thank you for being here today. Having had to listen to the challenges that really prevail in the maritime domain, I think it's very important today to listen to some of the solutions that we may encounter in order to have collective collaborations to encounter any challenges on the maritime domain and specifically within the Indian Ocean region. I'm very pleased today to welcome Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the United States to Oman, Anna Escrogima. Escrogima. I'm sorry to pronounce your name. Welcome. Then Mr. Anil Wadhwa, the former Ambassador of Oman to, the former Ambassador of India to Oman, Italy, Thailand, and Poland. And Vice Admiral Shekhar, Sinha, the Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Indian Foundations. Welcome, sir. Thank you. Though, without further to say, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I think today's topic is quite unusual for me to speak on because I'm not a technical person. But although I've visited a lot of ports and I know the problems that are there in port security, but today we're going to talk about innovative port security. So I think in Admiral Sinha, who's been a practitioner, would be a better place to speak about the nitty-gritties. But I would like to pick up from the discussion which we had yesterday in the plenaries, and the issue of innovation in the maritime domain came up repeatedly. And one of these also related to what we should be doing in terms of our port security, which has traditionally been defined as covering the defense, law and treaty enforcement, and counterterrorism activities that fall within the port and the maritime domain. And it also includes the protection of the seaports themselves and the protection and inspection of cargoes which move through the ports, also the security risks that are related to ports, which are often focused either on the physical security of the ports or the security risks within the maritime supply chain. So this is the traditional kind of understanding that we've had so far. Internationally, port security is governed by the rules issued by the International Maritime Organization and its 2002 International Ship and Port Facility Service Code. And then, of course, we've had some US programs that have got incorporated into customary international law, which has also given rise to de facto global port security programs. And that includes the Container Security Initiative, for instance, and the Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism. So these have become norms which have been adopted by a number of countries around the world. So the ISPS is actually an amendment of the Safety of Life at Sea Convention, also called the SOLAS Convention. There are 148 parties, but there is no consequence of non-compliance. And this is what we were talking about yesterday. Now, as far as the physical port security is concerned, that involves risks to the perimeter as well as to the port. And there are some natural risks also, such as hurricanes and flooding, for instance. There are man-made risks that can even include small things like operator error, weapons risks, which include chemical, biological, and nuclear material. And it also involves security of personnel, video surveillance, and alarm systems. So all this constitutes, in common parlance, what we understand by physical port security. Ports can also be targets of maritime terrorism, which we heard again yesterday. They are attractive targets for terrorists because ships and cargoes are fixed in time. And once they enter the port, which then removes the uncertainty in relation to the location of the target. So that's the main point here. Ports are tied to a supply chain, which can have various risks as well. And that includes things like explosives that can be attached to a vessel, or even to unwanted passengers on a vessel. Ports can be conduits for illegal activities like the moving of illegal materials, persons, or activities. There may be many vulnerabilities on the supply chain which are actually on the increase as we go along. There is also a requirement nowadays, and that is a recent requirement which has arisen, to invest in cyber defense. And why has that happened? Because in port infrastructure, there is much more role of cybersecurity awareness and also training programs. So maritime security is undergoing a very rapid digitization and technological advancements which are leading to reliance on onshore infrastructure to support critical maritime operations. That can cover the port, but also outside in the seas outside. And you have things like malware insertion, you have cyber ransomware, and these attacks have become quite common. So we've also heard about foreign state espionage activities in the infrastructure, in the ports. So that's another risk which has arisen recently, because hacking of IT systems and also, actually hijacking ships for locating the cargoes, the information relating to cargoes, is a related risk which has arisen. Then we have vessels which are calling at ports, and sometimes they are susceptible to acts of sabotage. Smuggling at sea is a problem which has been there for many years, not new, but now it includes illegal materials like drugs on a much larger scale. So there's been a sea change in the enabling technology for port and also hinterland security. And if you look at the patrol boats today, for instance, they are designed for speed and maneuverability. They're capable of mounting special weapons. They're equipped with radar and sonar equipment. So newer methods of port and harbor security, and also a blend of electro-optical sensors, radars, sonar, and also unscrewed vehicles, etc. All these have come together to add to the old-fashioned concept that we used to have of human patrolling. So there are now, for example, electronics e-scamming, as we call them, ground radar systems for counter drones operations in the perimeter, and security of, which is called a wide-angle security surveillance, coastline security applications, and most importantly, something which came up yesterday during our last session on geospatial products which can identify dark vessels. What are these dark vessels? These are vessels which actually switch off radar transponders and they cannot be located otherwise. But now, by fusing the AIS signals from the vessels with deep learning, you have a ship detection method which has been evolved. Of course, it's not widely prevalent, but it will soon come into force very quickly. Now, if you look at the core of the airports, of the seaport security, of course, we have the perimeter intrusion detection system, which detects intrusions with the minimal false alarms and automatically records, all which goes on in the ports. Normally, we rely on cameras for this, the normal cameras. Then there's the forced entry protection system that can include automated bollards, the tire killers, and under-vehicle inspection equipment. There's also the license plate recognition and access control system to identify all the port employees who are coming into the port and all the other relevant parties. There's a CCTV system, which you're all familiar with video analytics, which is much more advanced than it used to before, for surveillance of the critical parts of the port, and also instant analysis, and that's very important, of incidents and threats. Then we have a command and control center, which has become a very important player nowadays to enable situational awareness and also full control of operations and first responders. Now, given all this, today there are four main areas of what we call smart ports, or ports 4.0 as we call them, which have come into play, and in future most of the ports will have to invest in these technologies. So what are these? First of all, technological solutions, as I talked to you about, are revolutionizing the way ports address risks. And so we have to implement new tools to mitigate the accidents and failures much more efficiently. This is an ever-changing world in which ports must adopt new security trends and solutions to protect their operations and also to safeguard the flow of global trade. And so the emergence of smart ports, as we call them, or Port 4.0, has led to greater integration of new technologies into port operations. And these are not only focused on infrastructure modernization, but also on the implementation of innovative technological solutions that improve the safety and efficiency in all areas of the port environment. I'm going to talk about just four of them, and then I will close. First is the advanced monitoring and early warning systems. Now, modern ports are adopting what is called advanced monitoring systems that use technologies such as Internet of Things, sensors, cameras, and real-time data analysis. So these systems enable continuous monitoring of port operations. They identify potential risks and failures early. For example, sensors can detect anomalies in container temperature, humidity, or pressure, which could indicate a potential leak, for instance, or fire, in that kind of a risk. And the data collected is then analyzed in real time, which enables the port manager sitting in that control room to make very quick and efficient decision to mitigate that risk. Earlier, these technologies were not available. Second is the use of drones for inspection and surveillance. Because drones are revolutionizing the way inspection and surveillance is conducted at ports. So these aircraft can access areas that are difficult to access or dangerous to human beings, allowing for a thorough assessment of port infrastructure. Drones are equipped with high-resolution cameras that can perform detailed virtual inspections of piers, of cranes, of bridges, and other port structures, which identify potential hazards or integrity failures, as we call them. In addition, drones can also perform real-time surveillance, which detects suspicious activity, for instance, or security breaks, which contribute to the prevention of accidents and also criminal acts. Third technology, which is revolutionizing how we look at ports, is the vessel traffic management and berthing systems. Now here, maritime traffic management has become a very crucial challenge nowadays in ports, especially those with high volume of vessels. More and more ports are handling very high volumes of cargoes. And the implementation of maritime traffic management systems, which are based on state-of-the-art technology, allows for more effective monitoring and coordination of port operations. These systems use radar, they use satellite positioning, there are also real-time communications which monitor and control the movement of ships in the port area. And real-time information on vessels' location, the weather conditions, and also other relevant factors enables the port operations to make some informed decisions to avoid, for example, collision in bad weather, reduce the warning times, and they also optimize operational efficiency. So they minimize associated risks as well in the process. In addition, you have the advanced berthing aid systems, BAS systems as they're called. They have become available so you have less time wasted on berthing, and also the berthing takes place in a safe manner. Last point is the use of artificial intelligence for data analysis. And artificial intelligence and machine learning are being applied in port risk management to improve pattern detection and decision making, because there are AI algorithms which can analyze large volumes of historical and real-time data to identify trends, anomalies, and also potential risk scenarios. So these predictive analytics allow port managers to anticipate potentially dangerous situations and take preventive measures. In addition, AI can also assist in identifying emerging risks and also developing more effective mitigation strategies. Finally, innovation in port risk management is opening up new possibilities to mitigate accidents and failures more efficiently, more effectively, and technological advances such as advanced monitoring systems, drones, vessel traffic management systems, and the use of artificial intelligence are transforming the way risks are addressed in ports, which improves the safety of operations and also reduces response time to risk situations. And these innovative solutions not only help to protect human life and port assets, but also contribute to greater efficiency and competitiveness in the port industry as we go along. So there are many possibilities which have opened up in this industry going forward, and AI is actually transforming the way we are going. Thank you.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for your informative presentations. You've touched brilliantly on the advanced civilian cybersecurity and smart access supports. We'll be discussing and challenging more of these on completion of work, three of us. So thank you very much.
So your mic, I think, is not working.
No? It was working there.
أحمد بطاري.
Okay, speak louder. His Excellency, Your Excellency, thank you very much for the informative presentations. You've touched brilliantly on the cybersecurity surveillance technologies of port security and innovation. We'll be discussing and challenging more of these on completion of the three of our guest speakers. So thank you very much. Is that okay now?
Yeah.
Okay. Our next speaker is Her Excellency the Ambassador. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Dr. Khamis, fellow panelists. First, just let me open by thanking Foreign Minister Said Badr al-Busaidi and the Omani government for hosting this year's Indian Ocean Conference. I also would like to thank Minister Jai Shankar and the India Foundation for their partnership in organizing this forum each year. As I'm sure that our distinguished guests who are in town for this conference are very much experiencing, Oman is such a gracious host, and it's been my pleasure as U.S. Ambassador to have felt this warm hospitality here in Oman over the last year. And of course, when I look out my office window or if I'm going for an early morning walk, you're looking out to the Indian Ocean. And during my time here, I am able to see just firsthand how truly ingrained the deep bonds are between Oman and this critical region. And I think the same can be said of so many key U.S. partners and allies represented in this forum here today. Now, if anything has characterized the history of the region, it is connectivity. And as the theme of this event, Innovative Seaport Security, recognizes, this connectivity flourishes when we advance a free, open, connected, prosperous, secure, and resilient region. And when we do that, we can build a more prosperous and secure world. But we should not take this connectivity for granted. And this is where the innovation and security piece is vital. And we've actually seen this in recent events, reminding us that protecting fragile supply chains and the free flow of commerce is vital to ensuring that food, medicine, and energy supplies reach the people who need it. We also know that a critical part of maritime security is partnership. And in that spirit, I would like to express U.S. appreciation for India's decision to take on a future leadership role in the Combined Maritime Forces Naval Task Force to help secure sea lanes in the Arabian Sea. Now, I just want to refer, because it's relevant to the recent meeting between President Trump and the Indian Prime Minister, recognizing that we work to advance security cooperation in multinational settings, which also advances global peace and security. Now, the meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi was held with the broader regional context in mind, and the two leaders reaffirmed that a close partnership between the U.S. and India is central to a free, open, peaceful, and prosperous broader Indo-Pacific region. As Quad partners, they also reiterated the importance of support for safety and freedom of navigation, overflight, and other lawful uses of the seas, unimpeded lawful commerce, and advocacy for peaceful resolution of maritime disputes in accordance with international law. And as many of our distinguished guests have already noted in the context of this conference, the Indian Ocean's geography shapes modern-day security considerations, especially when we're talking about the three vital checkpoints, the Strait of Malaga, the Hormuz Strait, and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. For the United States, keeping this region open and free is critical for securing the free flow of global commerce and, more broadly speaking, ensuring stability of the region. But of course, this needs to be and is a collective and shared effort. We all know this, and we all agree on this. As our distinguished guest from Kenya noted yesterday, the similarity in our comments displays a shared recognition of the task ahead. And so the work in front of us is to focus on implementation. And of course, seaport security gives us a key area where we can begin to focus on how to move forward on a shared vision to actually implementing them in terms of the reality on the ground. So when it comes to seaport security, we recognize the Indian Ocean's central role in global trade. We also acknowledge that the economic prosperity the world seeks depends on this security and stability. Ensuring the safety of seaports is not just a national priority, but a critical shared responsibility in maintaining stability across one of the world's most vital shipping routes. Of course, South Asia is home to strategic seaports that are critical nodes for regional trade and security. And when our partner seaports operate efficiently and securely, it opens the doors for American businesses and global businesses to explore trade options. The U.S. wants to see ports that are efficient, prosperous, and secure. Seaport security is essential to this effort. And of course, we have to think about this innovatively as we keep up with the complex transformations arising in this region. For example, innovative technologies and transparent and adaptable port governance give seaport authorities the confidence and strength to disrupt fentanyl flows. When transnational criminal organizations cannot exploit ports to traffic fentanyl, the Indian Ocean region is safer. Modernizing seaport cargo processing through improvements, and I want to thank you for mentioning the HSI Container Security Initiative, in scanning technology is one important opportunity that is already happening with partners around the world. But of course, innovations in this area could prevent data breaches and enable our partners to meet cargo security mandates. We also see opportunities across the region to collaborate on cybersecurity at seaports, and we commend our partners for their continued engagement on this. And in recognition of the vital importance of cutting-edge technology to port security, here in Oman, the U.S. and Oman have successfully partnered for decades on training and exchange opportunities and targeting high-risk cargo through the Department of Homeland Security Port Security Initiative, which is, in our view, a model for cooperation and enhanced support, leveraging cutting-edge technology with partners around the world. So this has been an enduring 20-year partnership that shows that innovation and efficiency can go hand in hand to keep seaports safe and secure and be a major force multiplier for free trade. We would like to remind our partners to choose the highest quality technology options they can choose and the most transparent investment options they can consider when they're looking at their options in modernizing their seaports. We are grateful to our partners who actively collaborate with the U.S. on seaport security innovation. And looking ahead, we look forward to launching the Quad Ports of the Future Partnership at the Quad Regional Ports and Transportation Conference, which will be hosted by India and Mumbai, and delivering tangible support through this new partnership. Thank you.
Your Excellency, thank you very much. Again, thank you very much, Your Excellency, for the informative presentations. And you've touched on the cargo inspections and cargo security before it enters the port. You've also said a statement of port security is not only a national priority, but a shared responsibility. We'll be discussing more of that on completion. Thank you. Our third speaker today is Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, the Chairman of Board of Trustees of the Indian Ocean. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Assalamu alaikum, good morning, namaskar to all of you. I think two of my co-panelists have covered all aspects of port security and the cooperation which is required amongst the nations. I just add a few lines to that, that we must not believe that the maritime security ends when the cargo reaches our harbor. Actually, the maritime security begins well before the ships are loaded at the port of departure. I'll give you two examples which which makes my point little more solid. First is that we had intercepted a container ship where in one of the containers, fully air-conditioned, full-fledged Al-Qaeda operatives were taking passage from one place to another. The second one, our Mumbai terror attack, you know what happened, 156 odd people lost their lives. And when we were examining one of the survivors, Kasab, we asked him that why did you land up on a fishing village and not the harbor, which was just a few meters away. And what he said, it really worried us a lot. He said, for that, there is a different team being prepared by the Pakistan Navy. So we really got alarmed, and he said, we are just, this is more like a rehearsal, that they got off in a fishing village, not very far from Mumbai harbor, and we all looked the same. They took a cab and attacked the Mumbai VT station, Chhatrapati Shivaji CST station, 2 hotels, 1 cafe, Chabad House, and many more places. So these are 2 live examples of, that I can quote, which has happened. There's one more. We intercepted a ship just outside Goa harbor. It was a North Korean hired ship which was carrying equipment for making the nuclear power plant, mainly the bombs, which was heading for Karachi. So these 3 I am witness, and I have, as Ambassador Wadhwa said, the practical points will be made by me. So these are the 3 which I can recall. So ports are very, very vulnerable, and they are very important pillar of this entire trade and commerce. You may recall that yesterday, President India Foundation, Shri Ram Madhavji had mentioned, he had quoted Alfred Mahan, and he talked about the, one who rules the sea in Indian Ocean, will rule the, geopolitics of the sea. In the same book, by the title Sea Power by Mahan, he has put 6 pillars of sea power to the world. Basically, it was meant for the American Navy that we should look at these before you want to become world power, you want to replace the Britishers from number one position of the world power. And one of the pillars was the port security and port infrastructure. So I thought I'll just put this in some perspective. There are at least in India, the port structures are categorized as vital points, vital areas, VAs and VPs. So they form the bulk of the critical infrastructure, and therefore they receive that kind of protection. Now, if the port is very close to any adversary, his border, then it is quite possible that you can get attacked by missiles, you can get attacked by air-to-surface missile, surface-to-surface missile. If you see the Black Sea, which has happened recently, how the attack on Odessa was carried out by the missiles. So we need to have at the entrance of ports either a missile system, surface-to-surface missile system, or long-range guns. It has been a practice, at least in the Indian scene, that all ports have heavy-duty, long-range artillery guns outside the entrance of the harbor. Then, there are some harbors which are very close to a refinery. Normally, the crude oil is offloaded on a single point mooring, or in a harbor on an oil jetty. And the oil is transferred, the crude is transferred straight onto the refineries. So how do you protect them? Because they will be vulnerable to attacks from sea or from the air. And therefore, some of our vital ports also have surface-to-air missiles to counter these kind of threats. So not only soft power, not only low-end electronic sort of assets, but we need to have these what is called the hard hitting sort of assets outside the harbors, particularly the ones which have a very national importance. So I thought that it will be good for me to mention all this. Seaports play a very critically important role in the world's economy, processing billions of tons of cargo each year. We heard Honorable Foreign Minister of Singapore yesterday, virtually, who gave a figure of Singapore alone having handled 18,000 TEU cargo in 1 year. Now, if you look at the world figures, and if you take the world's 20 top ports which handle cargo, the total in last year was 373 million TEUs. So this is the handling capacity of port, and maximum handling are by the 9 ports in China, which are the top, in the top 10-15 ports of the world. In fact, there are, at an average, 200 ships are offloaded in 1 day. So you can imagine what kind of turnaround rate the ships come in, get the cargo out, safely to their destination, and move out. So it has a major role in the global supply chain, as the ambassador mentioned. The PricewaterhouseCoopers report, which Honorable Sri Ranil Wickremesinghe mentioned yesterday, the same report, it has highlighted that 90% of global exchange on sea, it passes through 39 key bottleneck regions. Any disruption in these regions could have far-reaching effect on trade worldwide. Securing seaports is a challenging task, which we heard from my co-panelist, because of their very extensive size, various get-to points, and high level of activity 24 hours. It makes the people inside the port quite powerless. They can do very little once the action is on. So I would say that it requires a very comprehensive surveillance mechanism, as was mentioned by Ambassador Wadhwa, and it must get networked, and entire picture should be available in the control center with the operations officer. Harbor security or danger to harbor security by exploiting the breached boundaries, different passage points on land, and restricted the checking capabilities that can happen. Security measures, I am not going to cover in great detail. It has already been spoken. Basically, I will say that comprehensive approach For guaranteed security, it needs multiple layers of security provision. One layer will not do. And as I said, the security of containers begins from the departure port. There has been a case when it was found that Al-Qaeda people came. We went back to that port of origin, I won't name. It was completely with the connivance of one of the port's officers and one person or one crew of the ship. So it's very difficult to read the mind of people, who's where, who's inclined, and therefore these security processes begin at the departure port, and hopefully they will have all the facilities that I'm talking about. Training of staff, not only security staff, but all in the harbor, in shift and batches, and make them absolutely familiar with the latest technologies. And the technology is changing so fast, it is essential that everybody is on the same foot. X-ray scanning machine was talked about, sensors, security cameras, control room connectivity. The X-ray machines are quite huge. In fact, you can pass the containers through and through. Vehicle screening system, portable scanners for smaller baggages. X-ray can detect the drug packages. It can have weapons, explosives. All this can be tracked by the X-ray machine. The precise identification of the concealed items. However, I must say that there may be times when one has to open it physically and have it checked if there are doubts. Still exist. So I would say that overall, I think that if you have these kind of mechanisms, it is fast, does not involve human being, therefore it takes less time, and it is less expensive once you install those equipment, because otherwise you have to use a lot of manpower. Second thing is, the using manpower through and through also exposes them to risk, because the cargo and the baggages are not small. They're quite huge, though they sort of weigh in tons. Secondly, it can cause injury, and also it can take a very long time, and you'll have to employ far too many people. So on that, there is a cost saving. The harbor entry channels and anchorage area. And this I must mention, that harbors are not open roadstead, that you come and sort of park your ship, berth your ship. They have to pass through a channel which are marked by the buoys. Buoys are the ones which indicate left and right port and starboard, as we call it. And the ships are only supposed to transit between those two buoys, because that has got a dredged draft. It will make sure that you have enough water below the keel of the ship which is coming. And cargo ships can have a draft of almost 10 to 12 meters. So in that dredged channel, it is more than 12 meters of depth. And you cannot maintain that, because silting takes place every time the tide changes. Every 6 hours you have diurnal variation. Every 6 hours the flooding takes place, and then next 6 hours it withdraws. So that is a cycle, and each cycle brings sand and other material from outside. There is a possibility, or we have also seen, that ships which are alongside already on the berth, the underwater infiltrators, they come swimming underwater, and they can attach limpet mine to the bottom of the ships, which can be detonated by a time signal. So this is big danger. How do you prevent these people if somebody is coming swimming right up to the berth? So for that, there was a short mention of sonar by Ambassador. So we have the sonar systems fitted, which actually transmit sound waves, sound energy at very high frequency, which is harmful to people. It can hurt them, it can sort of decapacitate them, it can hurt their ears, and they will fail. So this is one. Secondly, how do you make sure that the mines have not been laid in the channel through which the ships are coming right up to the port, to your berth? For that, particularly in the harbors which are commonly used by both Navy and the civil traffic. So there is a mine countermeasure ships. We have MCM ships which do a sweeping of the entire channel. They lower their gear and sweep magnetic mines, etc. They can get detonated, and these ships don't get affected because they have a wooden hull or a fiberglass hull. They don't have metallic hull. Very light, they only tow the... So when the channel is clear, then they inform everybody that the channel has been swept. It's called a swept channel. So the ships always transit through a swept channel, and if it is both military and a commercial ship, then sweeping of channel is mandatory before the warships start leaving, right? Because you will have aircraft carriers, you will have destroyers, all kinds of ships will go, and therefore they have to go. So the last point that I want to make, there is a requirement, very good cooperation, not only with the intelligence agencies on the other side, but we have number of agencies, multifarious agencies within harbour who have specific jobs. The Coast Guard, the Marine Police, the Navy, the police, the surface police. We generally have a police station inside the harbour, so that when you apprehend somebody, you can hand over to the police, because ultimately it is that policeman who has to file an FIR or who has to take the action. The cases will run there. So therefore it is important that we have a very good coordination, or let us say that while doing this surveillance by using the UAVs outside, drones outside the harbour at anchorage, and they find something is suspicious, then what do? Then the Coast Guard, Navy, these ships come in very handy. They are the ones who have got interceptor boats. They will go on the ship, they will board, and they will rummage the ship and to see that if there is anything suspicious. Another point here is that we have also had an occasion when a boat, normal boat carrying large number of goats, it almost entered Mumbai harbour, and when the goats were examined, in their stomach, explosive concealed in plastic packets were being smuggled. You see the innovation of people, and therefore there is a provision that at night fast patrol boats having the thermal imaging camera, they run through this entire channel 3-4 times and slightly outside, and if they find any small boat which is suspicious, they arrest them, and if they don't stop, they have orders to shoot them with heavy machine guns, particularly in the harbours which are of national importance, where both military and the cargo ships are operating. So these occasional sweep has to be done. There are underwater transmitters, which I mentioned about that. Perimeter of the harbour, that needs to be foolproof, and therefore the drones are very handy. Train the armed marine police. Train them so that in the boats they can go, they can wet their feet as well. Also, if some infiltration has taken place already on the jetty, then they should be able to take an armed action, what is called the quick reaction teams. So these are the important underpinnings of the security. I have not mentioned anything very innovative. They are innovative in the sense that how to use the existing systems. As far as the scientific developments are concerned, technological development, Ambassador Wadhwa mentioned all of them, and I think as and when they come to any country, you should make sure that it is included in your ports and keep it safe. We have 12 major ports, and all our major ports have this kind of security arrangement. Right. Thank you for your patience.